Have you ever taken a harmless picture only to discover a chilling secret in the background? You might want to hear this story and see if it sounds eerily familiar. Sylvia recently moved into a small apartment on the outskirts of town. She thought it would be a nice, quiet place to live, perfect for her and her 6-year-old daughter, Mia. After a long, exhausting day at work, Sylvia finally got Mia settled into bed and decided to relax for a bit. She'd just bought a new smartphone and left it on her bedside table as she drifted off to sleep. It must have been around midnight when Sylvia woke up suddenly. She wasn't sure why at first. The room was dark, except for a faint glow coming from her phone. She noticed Mia wasn't in her room, which wasn't too unusual. Sometimes Mia sneaks into her bed at night. Sure enough, there was Mia next to her, her little hand resting on Sylvia's phone. Sylvia carefully took the phone from Mia and decided to check the time. As she unlocked it, she noticed the gallery app was open. She figured Mia had been playing with it while she slept. Mia loved taking pictures, even if they were just random, blurry shots of her toys or feet. Sylvia started scrolling through the gallery, deleting the random photos Mia had taken. There were a few shots of the ceiling, her tiny feet, the usual stuff. But then Sylvia got to the last photo, and her heart stopped. It was a picture of Mia sleeping beside her, taken from above as if someone were standing right over them. Sylvia could see herself in the background, eyes closed, completely unaware. But the part that terrified her the most was the faint grayish face of an elderly woman hovering above Mia, partially out of frame. The woman was staring directly into the camera with wide, unblinking eyes. Sylvia felt the blood drain from her face. She quickly glanced around the room, but everything was still. The shadows seemed to stretch out in the corners, and the air felt suddenly cold. She tried to calm herself down. Maybe Mia had somehow downloaded an image or used a filter by mistake. Sylvia zoomed in on the photo, hoping to find some logical explanation, but the details of the woman's face became even clearer. It wasn't some glitch or edit. It was real. Sylvia didn't know how, but it was real. She turned to look at Mia, her tiny chest rising and falling softly. Sylvia brushed a lock of hair from her forehead, trying to convince herself it was all in her head. She was about to delete the photo when Mia stirred, mumbling something in her sleep. "Mom," Mia whispered, still half asleep, "who was that old lady in our room last night?" Sylvia's heart stopped. She froze, unable to move or breathe. Mia opened her eyes a little, still groggy, and looked at her. "The lady who was standing behind you while you were sleeping," she said. Sylvia didn't sleep at all after that. She kept every light on and watched over Mia all night. The next morning she deleted the photo, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the woman was still there, somewhere, watching them. Sylvia didn't know what to do or how to explain it. She just hoped she would never see that face again. The dead don't rest here. They ride the train Zweigreid, and tonight they're waiting for me to join them. Working the night shift at the old train station was always unsettling, especially after the midnight train left and the entire place fell into an eerie silence. I'd been a station attendant for 5 years, and I thought I'd seen it all. Until 3 nights ago. 3 nights ago, I witnessed a tragedy. A man, maybe in his late 30s, had accidentally fallen onto the tracks as the train was approaching. It was all so quick. The scream, the screeching of brakes, and then the awful silence. I was there, right on the platform, and I saw it all. The image that stayed with me, the one that haunted my sleep, was of his hand. His hand was clutching a ticket, even in death, never letting go. That small, crumpled piece of paper was all that remained in his grip, as if it held some last shred of hope or purpose. Tonight I was doing my rounds, making sure the station was clear. It was past midnight, and the last train had already departed. The wind outside howled, and the rain lashed against the windows. The old station creaked, settling into the darkness. I was ready to clock out when the radio crackled to life. Max, we're low on supplies down in the storage room near Platform B. Can you grab some before you head home? Platform B was where it happened. The memory flashed in my mind. The man falling, the train screeching to a halt, and that ticket still clenched in his cold, dead hand. I hesitated, but I didn't want to leave my coworkers short on supplies. With a sigh, I made my way to the freight elevator that led to the basement. The doors opened with a metallic groan, and I stepped inside. To my surprise, a woman was already there. She was standing still, facing away from me, her long, dark hair covering most of her face. She seemed out of place, but it wasn't uncommon for passengers to wander the station after hours, especially those with nowhere else to go. "Late night?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light, though my voice wavered. She didn't reply, just nodded slightly, her hair swaying with the motion. I noticed she hadn't pressed any buttons, which was odd. I pressed the button for the basement, and the elevator began its slow descent. As the elevator descended, I felt a shiver run down my spine. The silence was deafening, broken only by the distant rumble of thunder outside. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Finally, the elevator reached the basement, and the doors slid open. The dim, flickering light barely illuminated the platform. In the shadows, I saw a figure, a man, limping toward the elevator. His clothes were torn, his movements unsteady, like he was dragging something invisible behind him. As he came closer, I realized I knew that face. It was him, the man who had fallen onto the tracks 3 nights ago. The memory hit me like a punch to the gut. I could see his face, pale and lifeless, his eyes wide open with a look of fear that seemed to pierce through me. And then I saw it, his hand. He was still holding a ticket just like before, as if he had come back to deliver it to someone. Panic seized me. I slammed the button to close the elevator doors, my heart racing. The doors began to slide shut, but not fast enough. I could see him getting closer, his hand outstretched, the ticket fluttering in his grasp. My breath caught in my throat, and I pressed the button repeatedly, praying for the doors to close. The elevator started to ascend, and I let out a shaky breath, my hands trembling. Beside me, the woman finally spoke, her voice soft but cold. "Why did you do that?" "He just wanted to give you something." I turned to look at her, confusion mixing with the fear in my chest. "Did you see him?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "He died 3 nights ago. I was there. He was still holding his ticket." She turned slowly to face me, and my heart stopped. Her face was pale, almost translucent, and her eyes, they were empty, hollow. She raised her hand, and I saw it. A crumpled ticket, just like the one the man was holding. "I have one too," she whispered, stepping closer. "You were here that night, 2 years ago, remember?" A cold wave of realization washed over me. I did remember. 2 years ago, I had been on this very platform when another tragedy struck. A woman had stepped onto the tracks. I saw her too, saw the train pass over, and when they pulled her body away, she was holding a ticket in her hand. Her face was just like the one before me now. The elevator reached the main floor and the doors dinged open, but I couldn't move. She was still there, holding out the ticket, her eyes staring into mine. "Take it," she insisted softly, a twisted smile forming on her lips. "Take it and come with us." I stumbled out of the elevator, my mind screaming at me to run. I didn't stop until I was out of the station, the cold rain soaking through my clothes. I could hear her voice, faint but clear, echoing through the empty halls. "Take the ticket, Max. You belong here too." I never went back to the station after that night. I quit the very next day, but sometimes when I'm alone, I still hear that voice whispering in the dark, and I wonder if one day I'll find a ticket waiting for me too. And when I do, I wonder if I'll have the strength to refuse it. Thanks for diving into the shadows with us. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. Stay curious, stay safe, and remember, sometimes The truth is scarier than fiction. Until next time, sleep tight if you can.